Hi everybody, my name is Debbie, and I am the founder of Cup of Tea Events, and every month we host a ladies gathering here in Commerce. It's open to all the ladies of the community, and basically we just get together and have a fun time. We eat a little food, we play some games, we have someone come and share an inspirational part of their life or a story. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity to get together with other ladies in the community, get to know the people that you live around, and really build some relationships. So we meet every last Wednesday of the month, and we're at different locations sometimes. Most of the times we are at Piece of Bread. Tonight we happen to be at the Magnuson Hotel, so shout out, thank you to them for letting us meet here. But you can always check our Facebook page. Just look for Cup of Tea Events on Facebook, and each month it'll tell you where we're going to meet and at what time. So come join us sometime.
If y'all want to just take one and pass it around, there you go. Just do that.
This is mine?
Yeah. And we can start with you and
First of all, we always know that it's a little nerve-wracking when whoever is sharing. So how about we just give her a big hand of applause. I love this young lady. She's very, very special in my life. And so for her to come all the way from Roy City to share her precious story means a lot to me. So,
well, I am so happy to come tonight. Debbie asked me, and she said, if you want to pray about it, and I said, no, I don't need to pray about it. Anytime I get to brag on what God has done in my life, I definitely jump at the opportunity. So I will just dive right in. So I'm going to start with Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not disaster, to give you a hope and a future. And in those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look to me wholeheartedly, you will find me. So wholeheartedly was something that I didn't catch whenever I would hear that verse. Growing up, I would be in and out of church with friends and bus ministry, and I would hear them say that, and it made me resentful because I would think, I'm praying, but nothing's happening. And it wasn't wholeheartedly. It was, I doubted. I pretty much took care of myself growing up, and so the presence of God was not there. My growing up was not really in church. It was just when I went to visit family, whenever I rode the bus. And so just a quick summary of my childhood. I was born in 1983 in the Houston area. My parents were married after I was born, but they were both alcoholics and drug users, and so I spent a lot of nights sleeping at the bar, finding fun things to do at the bar all hours of the night. My mom had a hard childhood, and because of that, she was very physically abusive to me. And then between the ages of 4 and 5, I was sexually abused by babysitters, people that they would leave me with from time to time. And by the time I was 7, my mom had my little brother, and within 6 months my parents divorced altogether for the last time. There was always a lot of fighting and a lot of splitting up, but this was final. I was so desperate for love, and both of my parents got out of that relationship, and then they got into more relationships, more bad relationships. And because of my life that far, I would be friends with Christians, and I would hear, my friends talk about one day when they're married and one day when they have kids, and that was just something that I never desired. I kind of was resentful. I had to take care of my brother a lot growing up, and so I never wanted to have kids, never wanted to be married, because for me, marriage looked like strife and arguments and a lot of crying. So we moved around a lot. We moved around, we were always evicted, and what I remember looking back, as I tried to remember good things, was there was one man in particular, and he worked for a certain church in my town, and every time we would move, he would find me, the bus ministry. And when I was little, I thought he was creepy, because he would just show up, and I'd hear the door knock, and I'd open the door, and he'd say, "Brandy," and I just was so surprised to see him, and I thought, how does this guy keep finding me? But it was so wonderful, because it gave me an opportunity to go to church. And so I look back now, and I see that God used him to pursue me, and that was just so comforting to me now, to think back and look at that God was taking care of me even when I had no clue. So I'm grateful for his service, and grateful for his heart, because he was doing what the Lord told him, no matter what anybody else thought. And because I was always seeking that love and acceptance from someone, because I wasn't getting it from my parents, I ended up pregnant at 16. And I was terrified, and, of course, the dad wanted nothing to do with taking care of the baby. So I decided to keep Andrew, and I struggled to get through high school. My dad told me that they would help me get through high school, but I had to work. So I worked at Eckerd during the nights, and then in the mornings went to school. Teen pregnancy was so prevalent in my area that we had a high school daycare that was for free. So had it not been for the daycare, I would not have graduated. But by the time I was in 11th grade, my dad and stepmom asked me to move out. They were moving, didn't have room for Andrew and I, so we moved out, and I moved in with my boyfriend and his family. And that was a really hard situation. I thankfully graduated, and by 20 I was pregnant again with Bailey. Really hard time in my life. I was living with his family, and it was a lot of turmoil between my parents and his parents, and just a lot of grief. But I found ways to, just pretend and make sure everything looks okay on the outside, but on the inside I was really hurting, and I kept turning to try and find someone to love me. And by the time Bailey was 2, I was pregnant again, and I was terrified. It was a really hard decision, but I was very selfish, and I thought I never wanted to be a mom and have 2 kids. So I thought the best thing for me was to have an abortion. It was the lowest. It was the lowest point in my life. So after I did that, I decided that I was going to try church. And so I found a church down the road, and I started going, and I was faithful. I went every Sunday with Andrew and Bailey, and the pastor sought me out because I was a new person in a small church, and he asked could he come and meet me and the kids, and I said absolutely, I want to hear about everything. And so he came to the house, and he kind of interviewed me and asked me a lot of questions, and I was living with my boyfriend, and he said that he wasn't happy with the way I was living, that was not what the church wanted to represent. And so he told me I needed to get married. And I said, well, he doesn't want to marry me. And he said, why would he marry you? Okay, that's the whole.
Wait, what? The pastor said this?
The pastor said, why would he marry you? And I said, well, one day we'll get married. And he said, he's not going to marry you. And so you need to get your life on track. And so I said, okay, well, how do I do that? And he gave me some suggestions and said I either need to move out or get married. And I said, well, I just have nowhere to go. And so anyway, by the time he left, I decided that I was not church material, that I did not belong, that there was no way that I would ever be able to get my life together. And I thought, okay, I can move past that now. Like, I've tried that and it didn't work. And so I'm just gonna do what I need to do to pick myself up and have a good life. And so soon after, I met Lee. Lee is now my husband. I fell in love with him. He was so kind to me. And we lived in Houston, and shortly after we met, he got a job offer in Greenville. And so we ended up, his L3 flew us up here to look for a home. And we weren't married, but he said, when we get there, we'll get married. So we get up here, we drive all over the place, we cannot find anywhere to live. And I thought, what are we gonna do? We have to move here. And 1 hour before we had to leave for the airport, we went to a realtor place, and they said, we have one house left, and it's on LaFontaine. And I said, we'll go look at it right now. And so we dashed over there, we ran through the place. I thought the kitchen looked a little strange, but I thought, it'll work. It's a home, and it has 3 bedrooms. And so we got the house, spur of the moment, and we went to the airport. He got the job. We moved here. Within 5 minutes of getting our stuff moved in, people started coming out of their houses, and I thought, what's happening? And it was all the church people, and I was so scared. And we moved next door to the worship pastor, fellowship, and I thought, I looked at Lee and I said, please don't tell them we're not married. And he said, okay. And so they came and introduced themselves. We lead worship, and we would love to have you. And I said, okay. And then the other people, they went to a different church, but they introduced themselves and, would you love to come to church with us? And I was like, not today. And so they left, and then more people across the street, they came over and they went to family fellowship as well. And they said, we would love to have you at family fellowship. And I was like, okay. And so I just hid in the house, and I prayed that nobody would ask us, like, when's your wedding anniversary? I don't know, weird stuff like that. And so I just kind of stayed to myself. And then the one neighbor, he just kept, every Saturday, hey, you want to go to church? Oh, got some stuff going on tomorrow. He's like, Sunday morning at 9 o'clock? Yes, so busy. And so he just kept on. And I look back now, and I'm so grateful God used him to pursue me. And the kicker was my daughter, who's 14 now, she was 3. She's a people person, and she just kind of invited herself into the Morrow's home. And so I'm running after her, and I run into their house, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? And I said, oh, my daughter wanted to meet your children. And she said, okay. And so we came in, and she invited me again to church. And I was like, well, listen, I just don't think it's for me. And she said, come to women's Bible study. And so I did, and that changed everything for me. I came in there. The women were just so kind and just loving, and I thought, this is really awesome. But if they really knew me, I wouldn't be welcome. And so it was really, really scary to be in these relationships. But God really pursued me through each of them, and within a couple of months, I think I finally came clean, because there was one lady in the group, and she loved me so much. And I went out to her house one day, and she said, you're not married, are you? And I said, no. And she said, it's okay. I was in the same position that you were for so long ago. And I said, okay. So and I said, but we're going to get married. And she said, when are you getting married? And I said, I don't know. He says that whenever we have the money. And she said, Brandon, you were so special. You were so special. You're worth marrying. Do you believe that? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And she just kept on, and I said, but I don't have anywhere to go. She said, you can live with me. You and the kids, you can come stay with us. You are so special. And she just made me feel loved. It was just such a huge difference. She cared for me. She wanted the best for me. And she wanted me to want the best for me, not to settle. And so I said, okay. So I went home, Lee got home from work, and I said, listen, we're getting married or I'm moving out. And he said, where are you going? Why are you upset? And I said, I'm worth marrying.
Oh, I love that.
And I don't care if we don't have any money. I don't even need a ring. You are going to marry me or I'm leaving. And so he said, we'll get married. We will get married. I thought you would want a big wedding. And I said, I don't want any, I just want your last name. I want a commitment. I want a marriage. I'm feeling all these things. And so I learned the difference between conviction and guilt. Conviction is from the Lord.
Yes.
And guilt comes from the enemy. And I learned that so clear. And so we got engaged. He didn't get to ask me because I told him. I said, we're okay. We're celebrating 10 years. It's gonna be good. But I tell him someday, please propose to me. It would be so special to me. I would really love that. So we got engaged, and right before that, my son was 7 and he got cancer. And so that really threw us for a loop because I had only been a Christian for maybe 4 or 5 months, and then that happened. And so that was a huge point for me where I had to choose to follow God and stay faithful or turn away from God because, look what he's done. And so that was my mindset. And I remember getting on the elevator and going up and hearing God, I love you. I love him.
Yes.
Trust me. And I remember hearing Satan just, look what's happened. You chose to follow him and he did not keep your son safe. And so it was just like this tug of war. And I remember in that moment saying, God, I choose you. I know that you've chosen me and I'm going to choose you. And that was the breaking point for me. That was a couple of months ago. I remember writing in my journal, Paul had said, he was a preacher at the church, faith isn't true faith until it's tested. And that was definitely testing for me. And that was such growth for me. And Andrew's cancer was hard. It was 3 years of treatments. It was gut-wrenching. I don't know how. I look back and I don't know how, day to day, that we got through it. But God grew me. In the beginning, I would say, God, just take this away. Just let him be done with it, because he was hurting. And my prayer after a year changed to, what are you teaching me? What are you showing me? And the really wonderful thing was that I had prayed, God, please break Lee's heart. Break his heart so that he can come to know you. And God was able to break Lee's heart. I prayed for 3 years. Lee did not go to church with me for 3 years. And I remember meeting women and them saying, I remember meeting you at Bible study, and you said, yeah, my name's Brandy, and just pray for Lee. I would say Lee. I never said my husband. I never said boyfriend.
She was a woman of truth.
Yes, I was not going to lie. And so pray for Lee, and they did. And so it was really wonderful. Lee and I got married. He adopted Andrew and Bailey. And 6 years ago, I shared my testimony for the first time with the women's Bible study, our ministry class at Family Fellowship. And since then, he has grown me and stretched me so much. Our family has experienced a miscarriage before we had our 2 little ones. And then we welcomed 2 little ones. And so it's really neat to look back over Jeremiah 29:11 and see his glory. Whenever I was faithful to believe him wholeheartedly, I see his faithfulness throughout my life. I see his redemption, and I have joy. I love being a mom, and I'm not always wonderful at it. My kids can tell you that, but they have such grace with me, and so that is exciting. I love being a wife and spoiling my husband. There's hard days, definitely, but that makes the good days so much better. Growing up, I was taught to just pretend like everything's fine, and so I'm so far moved away from that. I just want to be as honest as possible. And even though I was so scared to tell my truth, after I told my truth and my testimony that first time, I was so scared, like, to let it all out. And I remember walking to the back of the room, and I said, "Do you still love me?" And they said, "We love you more." My biggest thought is that Satan always wants to shame you and make you feel isolated, like nobody's been through things. But God wants us to be in community and be vulnerable with one another. And so I love the quote my pastor shared. He said, "It's hard to insult someone that's been saved by grace." And so any shortcomings that we have, just being honest about those. And I prayed before I came, and I said, "Lord, what do you want me to share? Like, what is it?" And it's brushing my teeth. And Sunday morning, I ran to my amazing office. It's all mine and Lee's. And I jotted this down. And he just reminded me that surrendering my life over to him wasn't about making my life easy or free from trials. It was about having a peace in the midst of my trials, about having joy when I was in the middle of disaster. And I look back on my life, and I remember feeling hopeless and lonely and desperate. And then having Jesus to lean on feels like peace and security and freedom. And he held me, and he taught me, and he still pursues me every day. What an amazing love.
You know, that's hard. That's hard to get in front of people you don't know, and you know some of us, and to be that honest and that open. But is there anybody in here that doesn't love her more? I mean, if you didn't even know her before, we get it. We don't really get to know each other because we want to hide all of the faults and all of the stuff that hasn't been pretty in our lives, and that's actually what makes us human to the person right next to us, so that we can identify with them. Mm-hmm. We've all been through stuff. Yes, we all have, just at different levels, different things. But having a community, a place to be safe, to share with each other, to be honest, and to get to know each other for who they really are, and to love each other for who they really are. That can be, that Brandy found it in neighbors, and then in church, and then in her family, and we can find it in lots of places. Here in Commerce, we found it to some extent with our little cup of tea. We're getting to know each other better. I mean, there's quite a few of us now. I'd say over the last 9 months, we've represented 60 different women, all for the ones that go to church, probably 6 or 7 different churches altogether, and some, just in the community, maybe not connected to a church or whatever, but we connect here. And we're getting to know each other and being more open with each other and what's going on in each other's lives. And just like we can watch Carol from 1 month to the next, be like, "You just look like you feel and you have energy." And to watch Pinky, and to watch Pinky from the first time she came in and was like, kind of in the corner and didn't know one person, not one person, and then now she's filming us.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
with her little tripod.
I know, right?
She's a social butterfly. You are impressive. I love it.
Right?
And we can watch Destiny grow.
Yes. Yes.
What's the baby's name? Do we know yet? The baby's name?
I already know it too. That's my spicy child.
What is he warning?
Noah. She likes Noah.
What does Roberta like?
I don't know a different way to say it. So it's hard.
How do you say Noah in Spanish? Noe?
No way. Or
Noah. Oh, I like that too.
I don't know.
But then your kid would always think you're telling them no way.
When Noah was little, he would say Noah a lot, because he's my second born and he's very adventurous. And so people would say, "What's your name?" And he'd say, "My name, No."
Awesome. So thank you, Brandy. And thank you, Lauren, because Lauren is also a very special friend to Brandy, and to come and be moral support to come and join us tonight. We love you and we appreciate it. And we never leave without a game or some prizes or something. I don't have a big game plan for us tonight, but we're not going away without giving out some prizes. So did everybody get a little red ticket? Okay, and is your name on the back? Yes. Well, let me grab a cup.
Do we have an extra one?
Where's the extras, gals?
When?
Got Destiny's here.
Can we miss you? We didn't mean to miss you.
I have Destiny's. It's already in the cup. Oh. Yes.
Hey, give her two.
Did you?
One for baby
Yeah,
Noah.
Yeah, you put your name on it.
Nobody knows need to have a shower first.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I would like the game.
Yeah,
to
make
be
sure your
played
name's
with
on
the
it.
Little poopy diapers with fun-sized candy bars. That one cracks me up. It's
I
so
like the
funny.
one where you put a bib on your partner and you feed her.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you're blindfolded and trying to feed them.
This is
I haven't
how you
done
put
that
in your
part.
baby shower.
Blindfolded.
Oh, yeah, you're blindfolded.
Okay, Heidi,
Yes.
you be my prize person. So Heidi's going to go over and get into our prize baskets. And she's going to, just at her whim, she's going to pull something out. And then we're going to draw for it.
Oh, jeez.
The pressure.
Can I make a quick announcement?
Yes.
So we have been, I didn't even know some of the ladies, but we've been doing the Armor of God Bible study by Priscilla Shire, and we're finishing that up, but she has a study on Gideon. And one time a pastor had prophesied, said, like, Gideon's spirit, like, you know, because I had struggled with, like, insecurity and not feeling like I measure up and things like that, and Gideon did too. And God takes our weakness and makes us strong through him. So that study is starting September 18th. It's a Tuesday night, and if anyone's interested, you're more than welcome. It'll be at our home, and it'll finish up the last Tuesday of October. And then I have to fist bump, high five, and duck out for basketball season because we'll be at basketball 4 to 5 nights a week with a junior higher and a high school. So, but anyway, just wanted to invite anyone because like
Awesome,
3
thank
cup
you.
of tea ladies came, Heidi and Judith and Regina, and it's been wonderful. I mean, and there's like 7 other women too, so it's been great. Yeah.
I had an epiphany last night and I was crying. It was wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
it
Well,
was.
we were
Through the study.
we're doing the Armor of God, and we were at the Salvation helmet. The
Yes.
helmet of salvation.
Yeah.
And she was talking about that. Put your helmet on, and if someone's talking bad to you, just put that helmet on and block it out. Well, all my life I've been talked down to, and why'd you do it that way? And you know, why don't you get these grades and that? And I'm going, God gave me my helmet a long time ago. And it was like the rest of the show, I'm just, like, thank you so much. Because it's like, you took such good care of me growing up. You know, and even to this day, I mean, I still get it, but it's like, that's your problem, not mine.
Yes.
So,
Love
yeah.
it.
So,
Love it, love it, love it.
Yes.
Okay, show us what we're drawing for. Okay. Who will be our first winner of the night? It will be Emily.
This is a perfect reminder. Mom with 5 children. When they're still where I see it often, and they will remind me, and it will be good accountability. So there's that.
Just remember, it's not guilt.
Yes.
It's
Conviction.
Okay, Heidi, what are we playing for next?
I found these neat little books. This is
Okay.
Friendship and Joy.
We're playing for the book, the little Friendship and Joy book. That will go to Heidi. You get to keep that. You didn't know you were getting that for yourself.
I didn't know it's my
Okay, pick another one. Okay.
We can do a gentleness.
Okay. We have a book on gentleness.
Yeah, part of the
It's
friendship.
like everybody's going, oh, please, Lord, don't give me
If it is, it's fine.
Okay, it is going to Carol Goodall.
I was sitting up here saying, not me.
It's me, it's me,
Okay.
it's me.
Maybe that's just for you to give to a friend.
You
Y'all
know
just
what?
have to know.
I'm being honest
How do you be
because
subtle with that? Here's a book on
no,
Put it on the back of your
because
toilet.
the person I thought of when I saw it, his name is right here.
Well, I was just going to say, this might be a gift for
For
someone.
someone else, and I
Y'all
thought
need to know, this woman came to my house Monday, 2 hours in the afternoon to take care of me. To bring me good, healthy, some things and supplements to help me. This woman knows still.
That's awesome.
Yes,
absolutely.
like this. I'm gonna send it on to him. I
There you
did.
go,
It's like
awesome.
I saw. I was like, let's see who this is.
Okay, what are we playing for
That's
now?
his name right there.
Follow your dreams. All right, this is going to Pinky. I think she is following her dreams. As a reminder.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, what's next? This is even better than a game, right? It's like you don't really have to. The's no competition.
We're not throwing hands around.
Yeah.
We're not throwing any spoons at each other. Okay, what are we playing for now?
Oh, it says be blessed. And
Okay.
special mother.
It's a pen.
It's a
Okay.
bookmark and pen. You can use it in your Bible.
Okay, and it is going to Regina. Awesome. Okay, should Heidi stop or should we keep going?
Keep going, girl.
Everybody should. Wait, I'm going to ask again because it's being filmed. Should Heidi quit or should we keep going?
Keep going.
Thank you. Wait for Melissa to get
But shy one.
Oh, decisions.
Now we have another book.
What do we have?
Moments of Faith.
Moments of Faith book. Okay, and that is going to Melissa Dodridge.
Yes,
Thank you. That is such a beautiful picture on front.
know.
Love that.
Very pretty. That's pretty.
All right.
Oh, I like these. These are quick reads. That's always good.
You read a new book this week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There's another cool
Been a while,
bookmark.
but I'm
All
gonna
right.
finish this one and one right now.
Okay, if you want rainbows, you gotta have rain. Bookmark is going to Donna Bowman.
We need the rain. I know. When I drive by y'all's pond, or what is it? Is it a pond? Yeah, when I drive by y'all's pond, I'm just like, Lord, we really need rain. That's what reminds me that we need rain, is when I drive by y'all's place.
Are we still doing good on prizes? I love it. It's almost like Christmas.
2 for 1.
Early
Because they're little.
Okay, so 2 for 1. Oh, this is great. This is one of those Yankee candle things that goes in your car that smells good forever. And then hand sanitizer. All right, and this is going to Brandy.
Definitely think of sanitizer. It's actually Brandy and hand sanitizer. 10 are 2 for 1.
Yes.
Go together.
That's hilarious.
Here's a good one for moms.
Okay, which one is that? Oh, okay. We have a book on patience. And once again, everyone's going to say
I'm already.
Did you not hear me? I said, please don't pull mine. God knows what you need when you need it.
That's what I see.
He's got a sense of humor. Yeah, that's what he's really been working with me.
Okay, and another book, Let Hope Rise, will go to Destiny. Yeah, that's not perfect. It is.
He's got his hand on your hand.
Well, because I asked him to.
Bible study, sure.
I
I
don't
sure
ever do
will.
drawings, but ask the Lord to get it to the right person. Okay, ready? We have enough prizes for everyone to take something home. So, no one's going to
Do the big picture.
The big picture?
Yeah. I want somebody to win
I
that.
love that one. I
know
love
it
this.
says,
Okay. Being unique is better than being perfect. Okay,
I need to trade someone.
Jess.
Yes. That's
going
perfect.
to you. Awesome.
That's awesome. Oh, that is pretty. I like that.
All right. Go ahead and pull 2 at once if you don't mind.
That is definitely you.
Okay, if you haven't gotten a prize yet, you know you're fixing to get your name pulled. Let's go see what you're going to get.
We have
Okay.
peace and blessings and prayers.
Okay, we're going to do blessings and prayers first, and it is going to Linda.
Yay.
Sweet Linda. And that means if everybody put their name in here, the last one is going to Lauren, and it is on peace.
Awesome.
Everybody did get something, right?
Yes.
Awesome!
Fun.
Awesome. Well, yes, big round of applause. Congratulations. So next month we'll be back. Probably. I mean, it's a huge blessing when Don gets a big catering event, and he needs his building, so we can use it. So that's awesome. So just make sure you watch Facebook or stay connected. We should be back at Piece of Bread, but if for any reason that he, is using his restaurant that night, then we'll either be here, or there's one other option that we might have. I kind of think it's fun finding new places.
It is.
And finding new places in the community. They're willing to let a ladies group come in.
Luigi's was fun that time.
Luigi's was fun. Yeah,
It was like the
we did
biggest
that
one up
time.
to that point.
Yeah, it was. So, anyway, y'all, thank you so much for coming again. I look forward to this every month. Thank you again, Brandy. Would y'all please thank her again? Don't ever take it for granted when somebody is willing to share their story, because it's nerve-wracking to get in front of people sometimes and share your story. So, y'all, we all need to do it. We all need to share our stories where, we've got encouragement to offer other people. So y'all have a wonderful month, and share your story of encouragement with somebody around you this month. Okay? All right, y'all have a wonderful month. The last Wednesday of next month, I don't know the date, but it's always the last Wednesday of the month.
26.
Okay.
The 26th? Okay? Oh, everyone say bye.
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 Adios.
Bye.